My name is Ravi Mehra. I'm a fluid dynamics researcher, and in 1989, I was just a recent immigrant from Delhi with a doctorate from MIT, trying to find my footing at NASA's Ames Research Center. I still remember the day she walked into the lab, shoulders squared, eyes bright, a little smile curling at the edge of her lips like she was always in on a secret the rest of us hadn't figured out yet. Her name was Kalpana Chawla, born in Kurnool, Haryana, just like me. She had that soft North Indian lilt in her English, wore her long hair in a simple braid, and greeted people with a cheerful namaste before slipping into rapid-fire technical jargon that left most of the room scrambling. We hit it off instantly, two Indian engineers trying to prove ourselves in a space that still had so few of us. Our lunch breaks often turned into chai and chat sessions at a nearby Indian grocery store in Sunnyvale. I'd bring samosas from home. She'd bring parathas her mother had mailed frozen from India. Kalpana's dream, late nights in the wind tunnel lab, while I was content analyzing turbulence patterns and whispering to wind tunnels. Kalpana always looked up. "Ravi," she'd say, her eyes wide behind thick-rimmed glasses. "I don't just want to build planes, I want to fly them. I want to go to space." I laughed the first time she said it, not mockingly, just with disbelief. "Kalpana, we're Indian, from Haryana. Do you know how few women, let alone brown women, have gone to space?" She stared right back at me. "Exactly. That's why I have to." That conviction, it was her superpower. She applied to NASA's astronaut program in 1994. Out of 4,000 candidates, only 20 were selected. She was one of them. The day the letter came, she didn't scream or jump. She simply held the envelope in her hand, walked over to my cubicle, and whispered, "Ravi, I'm going to space." I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it. And when she hugged me, I whispered back, "Go show them what a girl from Kurnool can do." The first flight, STS 87, 1997. In November 1997, I watched the Columbia Space Shuttle lift off from the Kennedy Space Center. Kalpana was aboard as a mission specialist. I sat with her family. Her mother had draped herself in a cream-colored sari with gold zari. Her father sat still, hands folded like in prayer. As the shuttle soared, her mother wept into her dupatta. Her father looked up at the sky with moist eyes and said, "Chali gai meri beti sidaran kapar." My daughter has gone beyond the stars. From orbit, Kalpana sent back emails filled with wonder. "You know what's funny?" she wrote once. "From up here, the borders don't exist. Earth is just a beautiful blue marble. The return and the weight of a name." After her first mission, Kalpana was a sensation in India. News anchors called her Bharat Ki Beti, India's daughter, but Kalpana always shrugged off the fame. She was still the same Mantu from Kurnool, who once biked through dusty streets to her flying club. I remember one evening at her apartment in Houston, she served me rajma chawal, the same dish her mom used to pack for her. She said, "Ravi, I don't want to be remembered just because I'm the first. I want girls to know they can be second, third, and 20th too." Final mission, STS 107, 2003. We spoke 2 days before launch. She called from the Kennedy Space Center. Her voice was calm, cheerful. "Ari Ravi," she laughed. "This time we're running experiments for students from 6 countries. Even Australian kids want to know how ants behave in space." We joked about how Indian parents would now use her story to pressure their daughters. "Deka Kalpana Ko, NASA Chali Gai, Tum Kya Kar Rahe Ho?" But behind her laughs, I sensed a slight seriousness. She was concerned about a piece of foam that had struck the shuttle on launch. NASA brushed it off. "It's minor," they said. She didn't press. Kalpana always trusted the system. Maybe too much. The morning everything changed, February 1st, 2003. I was in Houston when it happened. I had planned to meet her and her husband Jean-Pierre that evening. That morning, I was sipping chai, the TV on in the background, when the announcer said, "Columbia has lost contact." I froze. First, I hoped it was a glitch. Then came the footage, a streak of fire in the Texas sky, fragments falling like stars that lost their way. I rushed to mission control. The silence Charlie Hobo, Capcom, sat pale and speechless. No one was crying. Not yet. Everyone was just waiting for hope that wouldn't come. Aftermath. The void left behind. President Bush addressed the nation. The Columbia was lost. There were no survivors. I flew to Kurnool for the memorial. Her school, Tagore Balniketan, held a candlelight ceremony. Two girls who had once spoken to Kalpana via video call were inconsolable. One whispered. She said I could become an astronaut too. I had no words, only tears. In Houston, I cleared out her desk. Among research papers and test models, I found a small framed photo, her in a salwar kameez, standing with her parents in front of their old home in Haryana. On the back, she had scribbled, "Still my launch pad. Legacy, Kalpana lives on." It's been over 2 decades. I still work with NASA, mostly mentoring now. Every time a brown-skinned girl walks into the lab, wide-eyed and brilliant, I see Kalpana. Her asteroid, 51,826 Kalpana Chawla, still orbits the sun. The United Space School still invites girls from her hometown. And in my home, above my desk, I keep the last email she sent me. "Ravi, if anything happens, know this. I've lived the life I dreamed of. Tell the girls back home. Reach up. Don't stop. The stars are closer than they seem." A cultural home in America. After the tragedy, the Indian American community in Houston united like never before. I remember organized prayer circles in community centers, candlelight vigils outside NASA. I helped arrange a memorial evening at the India House Cultural Center. I still see the crowd. Women in vibrant saris, men in kurtas, children clutching American flags and Indian flags, together in grief and hope. I spoke that evening, tears in my voice. She was one of us and she was ours, our Kalpana. We celebrated her life with bhajans and renditions of her favorite songs. I broke my own promise not to sing in public and softly sang Vande Mataram. Everyone joined in. It was as if our collective mourning transformed into gratitude. Flashback, childhood in Kurnool. To understand her fire, you have to go back to Kurnool, to dusty roads and the mustard fields whispering in the wind. I visited her hometown a year after the accident, standing outside her old home. The courtyard was unchanged. There she once ran barefoot, twirling in a green patent leather dress her mother had stitched. Her neighbor, Mrs. Varner, told me, "Monty used to tie a ribbon to a kite and pretend she was flying with it. Even at 8, she wanted to touch the sky. And when her teachers tried discouraging her from aeronautics, 'You're a girl, study literature or teaching,' they said. She fought back. Her brother Sanjay had told me, she said, 'I will show these boys I'm not a silly girl.' And she did. Campus days, Punjab Engineering College. The next time I visited was the campus of Punjab Engineering College in Chandigarh, where she studied aeronautical engineering. I walked hallways lined with her classmates' photos. One memory stands out. In a crowded lecture hall, there was Mantu, the only girl in the front row, eyes shining, head buried in a fluid dynamics textbook in English and Punjabi. She studied until midnight beneath a kerosene lamp because there wasn't always electricity. She once told me she learned perseverance there. If I could solve these equations under those lamps, I can solve them anywhere. The American journey, Houston, and beyond. In Houston, Kalpana embraced life with equal intensity. Friday night potlucks would fill her home. Dal, paneer tikka, naan, and American apple pies. We'd play cricket in the park nearby. Her swing was powerful, unorthodox, joyful, like her approach to life. As we cheered each other, when someone hit a 6, she would laugh. "One day I'll bowl in space." Sometimes astronauts would drop in. She'd introduce them. "This is Ravi, last surviving dinner partner of Kurnool." Everyone laughed. Even Commander Rick Husband would grin and say, "If she's with you, she's got all the right eggs for the mission." STS-107 in orbit with a mission. STS-107 was more than a flight. It was her final masterpiece. The payload was full of experiments that meant more to her than scientific papers. They were about humanity, curiosity, and unity. She described the spider experiment to me in an email the night before liftoff. Ravi, we put spiders and silk in microgravity. They spun webs without the usual gravity-guided patterns. It's like art I can't touch, but I see how life adapts. She was so proud of how she flew the robotic arm with grace and precision. Every experiment signaled her signature, elegance, control, diligence. A colleague told me later, she wanted to prove an artist could be an engineer, and an engineer could be an artist, even in space. The accident, collective shock. The world watched in stunned silence as Columbia broke up on a re-entry. I'll never forget the resurfacing of a news clip where a family in Laredo, Texas, looked into the sky as pieces fell. The husband wrapped his wife in shock. That image of a blazing comet will haunt me forever. At NASA's press center, engineers and scientists, people who had spent decades testing for worst-case scenarios, were broken. I hugged John Aaron, a shuttle specialist, who whispered, "We're not supposed to lose them on the way home." Friends from Mission Control took walks through Elysian Fields Park, burying their faces in the grass, weeping. Investigations and reckoning. As investigations progressed, I volunteered to present on the Indian American perspective at NASA's Internal Memorial. I spoke of Kalpana not just as an astronaut, but as an identity bridge. In August 2003, the Columbia Accident Investigation Board, CAIB, reported that it wasn't Kalpana or the crew's fault. It was a piece of foam. Engineers praised her experiments and praised her composure. Yet, they also reported that cameras were denied permission to photograph the wing at launch by higher-ups. Not for technical reasons, but because of schedule constraints. That irony cut deep. They shut down the shuttle program for inspections. Foam redesign followed. Lives changed. But for Kalpana, nothing would change except the world she left behind. Keeping her alive, education, and inspiration. Back in Houston, I started mentoring a new generation of Indian American students inspired by Kalpana's story. We called our outreach program Montu Stars. Scholarships were awarded in her name. I remember young Neha, a girl in middle school, coming to me with wide eyes. "I built a balloon rocket like Kalpana's experiments. I want to be an astronaut." Her voice cracked with tears of pride. At NASA Ames, we named a conference room Chawla. Engineers sat inside it daily, knowing her legacy powered their work. Legacy encapsulated asteroids and Mars. We held sessions about celestial tributes, asteroid 51826 Kalpana Chawla, Columbia Memorial Station on Mars. Engineers at JPL spoke of walking by the rover tracks every morning, remembering her spirit. When Phoenix rover landed near Columbia Memorial Station, there was quiet applause. Even on other planets, her name travels. Personal loss and renewal. The years haven't healed everything. I still wake at night, searching for her voice. When I attend weddings or festivals, I hear her laugh in the crowd. On the anniversary of February 1st, Houston Park's leave petals, Colonel A.M. Agnew hold prayer ceremonies. At the same time, I push forward because that's what Kalpana would have wanted. NASA invited me to keynote last year's Women in STEM conference. On stage, I looked out at faces reflecting her dream. Women who might walk on Mars, engineer tomorrow's spacecraft. A friend's promise, I keep her shawl folded on my bookshelf. It's indigo-dyed silk she brought from Colonel. I touch its fringe when I need inspiration. In the margins of her old lab notebook, she once scribbled, "Montu char paisa kam ki." Montu will get this done. I smile and say, yes, Montu did. Her husband, Jean-Pierre, remains close. We trade emails. Even now, 20 years later, he says, she loved doing science together. I wish I could tell her how proud she'd be of every child she inspired. Final reflections. If the sky was a tapestry, Kalpana embroidered herself into it forever. To me, she wasn't just a colleague. She was the friend who laughed with me over chai, teared up with me over dreams, soared above limitations, and defied gravity as an ordinary girl from Colonel. She taught me, and so many, that heritage is a strength, not a reason to stay small. She proved that dreams don't care where you come from, they care who you become. And when people ask me what it was like knowing her, I say, I watched my friend chase the sun, upward. She didn't just ride rockets. She carried hope.